From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big evening of evenings in LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2021. And tonight, a major achievement for the recon as a prescription medication deal is reached that'll lower your prescription medication's lifetime under Medicare. This is a historic and transformative revelation, and you're hearing for the first time in the breaking news report tonight on Evenings LA. A recon deal will also be going for a vote as early as the end of this week. The breaking details tonight are really robust. A recon deal was reached with prescription medication that mirrored what I have been reporting over the last 2 days, and today it was confirmed. I have the latest details, incredible, historic, in this recording. Then the roads and bridges and the recon will be going to a vote by the end of this week together, not one at a time. Then the price is right. The price will be $1.75 on that recon, and this is huge. I'll have the latest details how I'll pay you about $15,000 a viewer. And then the latest programs in and the latest programs out. I'll have the breaking update about that as well. We'll be looking over to the exciting details of fifth stimulus and also student loan debt. More debt could be forgiven, all the latest details on that. And then the exciting details of fifth stimulus as the chairman of the Federal Reserve about to testify on Capitol Hill a little bit more to explain where interest rates are going and where that inflation is going. It's a big night with the huge exciting news about a deal on another provision added, and boy, it's the best provision you have heard perhaps in many months on the channel. Cheaper prescription medication for my seniors across the board will not cost you anything, and this is transformative and historic. Meantime, a vote on the recon coming in just a few days from now. Boy, we're heating up. It's a big evening, and I'm with you direct in Santa Monica tonight. Very excited to deliver you the news of what's in and what's out as the recon heads to the finish line. This is breaking, and this is Evenings LA. I hope you're having a beautiful day and hope the weather is good where you are. Warmed up here in Southern California, but here we go. A deal is happening, and the deal announced today confirms my reporting that a deal was reached in cheaper prescription medication. It's huge. LA told you so that a recon will be going for a vote later this week. Nancy Pelosi confirming that, and the roads and bridges. The latest details about the price tag, $1.75, and the programs in and programs out with cheaper prescription medication in. What's next? I have the details on that, and boy, it's getting deliciousness. Student loan debt, more debt could be forgiven. The latest on that, and then the exciting details of fifth stimulus. Those details and more in a big recording tonight. I'm very excited for you because this is not a one-time deal. It's lifetime. Medicare, which never was able to negotiate the cheaper prescription medication prices, will now have this authority lifetime. This is a transformative negotiations after 15 weeks of negotiations with the lobbyists, and there are no less than a half dozen of them for Big Pharma trying to block it, and you got this done. Very exciting news tonight, and this is Evenings LA. So subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family where you hear the breaking news like this, which I covered since last Thursday, by the hour and on the hour. Consider becoming a member and also like this video. Let's go over this incredible recon that'll pay viewers of this channel about $15,000. That is, if you're a single individual, not married. If you're married, if you have children, if you're not don't have children, if you are on seniors, if you're not seniors, if you're on benefits, if you're not on benefits, $15,000 for almost all the viewers of this channel across the board, separated among 3 different clusters of checks. These $15,000 separated across these 3 clusters of checks. Let's go over each of the 3 clusters starting right now and see the status of them in or out at the time of this recording. Here we go. Cluster number 1. Everything in cluster number 1 survived. These are the provisions that were passed in the House subcommittee no less than 3 weeks ago, $3.5 trillion, and even at $1.75, they are surviving. Here's the great news tonight. Hazard pay survived. That is the earned income tax credit for 1 more year. $4,000 for elder care, $4,000 for young children's money. They got money in there for the Pell's grant made tax-free, and an additional $550 for the college students as Pell's increases. Then they got money in there for the CTC one more year, child tax credit, and then free money in there to repair your home in a low-income community. Finally, they got money into this first cluster, and it's staying in there for the bikes, cars, and trucks, all electric and all U.S. auto manufactured. An old law, they're just extending for 10 more years. 15% for the purchase of a new electric bike, $7,500 for the purchase of a new electric car. If for personal use, a little bit more for business use. Let's go to the first add-on that they were trying to do, and the status of that add-on is likely not happening. $25,000 for the purchase price of your first home from Maxine Waters. Likely not getting in there, but they got the other provisions from Maxine Waters in there, and their deliciousness. They are home items, home repairs, utilities, mortgage. Third stimulus had $47 billion of this. Fourth stimulus will have $175 billion of it. Whoa, here's one of them, and it's home repairs, and we got paid leave. Let's go over the details and the update about those tonight. Here we go. So the items in this second cluster are deliciousness. In the second cluster, we have the paid leave and other provisions across the board, but which ones survive? Well, paid leave and family leave and medical leave are believed to be going back in there. The household tax credit surviving, child care tax credit in there, pre-kindergarten in there, tuition-free community college out, and then the weatherizing your home surviving. Weatherizing your home, definitely needed to weatherize your home, especially if Kristen Sinema comes knocking and say, Happy Thanksgiving. And you say, yeah, it's like a month early. And she says, well, I just didn't want to call you a turkey. Yeah, the feeling's mutual. So there you go. So weatherize your home guide in there. Let's go to the second add-on, and it is really big. It's really incredibly wonderful. It is the money for free home health care. If you're a senior or a person on disability, they wanted $250 billion. They did not get $250. They got a little bit less, and this is huge. More about these provisions, and especially this one, later in this video, stay with me as I go through each of the provisions in detail and where the eligibility lies for each of the provisions. Let's go to the third cluster, and this is the cluster royale, the battleground of all battlegrounds. Boy, are you ready for this bloodbath? Here we go. Well, in the third cluster, what is the status? What survived? Free school meals for all survived. Cheaper prescription medication survived. Immigration reform in there, maybe coming out. I have details about this later. Farmers, I think, out. Free internet out, I believe. The money for the independent contractors, I believe, out. And then the money for seniors, dental, vision, and hearing, some in there. Let's go over the details right now. Yeah, this is why you stay with me. I had told you the details of the prescription medication negotiation since Wednesday. In, out, broaden, not broaden, and then I told you a deal was looming as of Saturday. Well, the deal announcements ago, they got it back in there. Not the magnitude of the recon that passed the House, but really the best you have ever seen in the history of this country. It's incredible. The money for the immigration reform is in there and survived, but it may likely be coming out. And if it comes out, that money could be reallocated to you. Because remember, the program comes out and the money gets reallocated across the board. It could go to those MSC IRS stimulus checks. Then the seniors, dental, vision, and hearing, they only got hearing in there so far as of tonight. Push on the way to expand it. Stay with me. I have the latest details on that. And there you go, which brings us into that MSC IRS stimulus check. It's very indicative of the situation of how things are moving very quickly. And who negotiated all these provisions for the pharmaceutical stuff tonight? It was the senators. It was not the House members. The important thing to understand is that the senators are leading the way on the negotiation. Something that I'm making a little bit more clear tonight is that you're going to see the House members talk about the procedure, who votes first, when they vote. But you're going to see the senators talk about the substance. This is huge because it's the senators more than the House members who we've been advocating to and who said that they want to give you a monthly stimulus check. It started with Chris Coons nearly 3 months ago. Then it was Bernie. Then it was Liz Warren and Chuck and Nancy. Then it was Chuck and Chris Coons and Bob Casey and Warren and Sanders and Schumer. Well, guess what? Schumer's part of the equation. Schumer's a very important part of the equation because he's the guy in charge of the vote-a-rama. There's several ways in which that MSC IRS stimulus check can go in there. It's not in the recon yet, and there's ways to add it in there. Likely after the House bill But before the House votes, says Pelosi, AOC, and Omar's office to viewers of the channel. And if it's not taken care of in the House side, the senators can add it in there. Ron Wyden, Chris Coons, any of these people can add it in there by amendment. Who's in charge of the amendment? Chuck Schumer. What's it called? The vote-a-rama, the final 2 days of this entire process. And who determines when things are called for a vote? Chuck Schumer, who's the guy who told Donnie's wife last week, Donnie this week, Liz Warren as well, and also told Debbie Applegate the week before that, another viewer, that he's inserting a monthly stimulus check. Chuck Schumer. Yeah, so this is very important to the equation. Let's go over one of the important messages which came in from the chief of staff to the number one legislator for that recon. Here it goes. It says they now have in total between congressional senators' offices to see more context of advocacy from the LA Purple Power than the number of signatures in the American petition. Everyone's amazed by the outpouring of touching stories. Now they have a better understanding of what the average American is going through this pandemic. They have heartbreaking stories, and they have the voice of the people across the nation who has become too loud to be ignored. And you, LALATE, very, very kind. Let's read the last sentence on air together. By the last sentence on air refers to you and me, and it says, please continue your encouragement for the continued advocacy as the professional voice of the people. You have become LALATE, and continue until this becomes law. Very, very kind. In morning's countdown today, someone said, why would we continue to advocate if we still haven't seen it added? Well, guess what? Chuck Schumer and Liz Warren and Bernie Sanders have not seen their stuff added. Bernie Sanders is living and breathing every day to ensure that dental and vision gets in there. Nancy Pelosi wants that paid leave, and she's fighting every day to get it in there. She's the Speaker of the House. He's the head of the entire recon process. Well, that's what advocacy is about, and tonight, a big win. In the second half of this video, we'll be going over that big win as the most transformative, historic, landmark decision that this country has done for prescription medication for seniors is now upon us. This is historic. This changes the entire way in which medication is provided to seniors through Medicare. It's absolutely historic, and it's not just a 1 or 2 year program. I'll have the latest details. LA told you so. The recon will be going for a vote as early as later this week, but what about the roads and bridges together? Price tag 1.75 for that recon, but could it go higher? And what did they try to do on Joe Manchin? I'll have the latest details. Programs in, programs out. Here we go. Prescription medication in, as I told you was going in, but which is the next one? The latest details on that tonight. And student loan debt, more debt could be forgiven. Whose debt? It's incredible, great news. Then fifth stimulus. Those big money across the board as fifth stimulus heats up. We got a big evening across the board as you stroll along the pier and you're looking for that $12 ice cream. Wave at the Ferris wheel and say, you know what? Just spin for me. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds as Evenings LA continues. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. They're Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals. Reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on Mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now, direct from Santa Monica, as a deal is reached in prescription medication. The best deal you've seen in nearly 2 decades. It's transformative and historic, and tonight's recording will go over that. That'll likely go for a vote later this week. The price tag $1.75 trillion, and then the programs in and programs out. Those details and more will be turning over to student loan debt. More debt could be forgiven. Who's next? And then we'll be cutting over to fifth stimulus. Though details and more as we go into a big evening across the board, but the exciting news, of course, is that deal happening on that prescription medication. And with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. The membership newsletter comes out tonight at 7 p.m. So if you haven't become a member, still time to get that newsletter tonight. Meantime, coming up next is Overnight's Crypto, and then we got our new programming block. 3 hours of binge watching. It's Evenings LA, it's Countdown, and then Street and Stimulus. 3 hours of shows. Just sit back and get it. Let it spider you from one show to the next. Tonight, a major deal reached, and that major deal is about prescription medication. Boy, this is why you stay here, because I told you it was coming. I told you the details of it. On Wednesday, I said that prescription medication deals for Plan B of Medicare were in there. Then they're out. Then I told you Wednesday night, the President of the United States got Kristen Sinema, after months of opposition, to agree to expand prescription medication, lower prices across the board. She did. I told you on Thursday morning when the prescription medication was out that it was very problematic. It was confusing. But by Thursday evening, I told you, now we know it wasn't removed. It just wasn't announced because it wasn't finalized. Between Thursday and today, they were negotiating this provision. Bernie Sanders spent all weekend long on the phone negotiating it. And tonight, it's exactly what I told you it was. It's Medicare Part B and Medicare Part D, but it's actually even better than I had initially reported. So here we go. The provisions will be the following: that now the government, for the first time in the history of Medicare, yes, for the first time in the history of Medicare, the government is now able to negotiate the cost of 30 drugs by the year 2028. It'll have a small exception for some biotech companies. The passage of the program includes that it will limit drug companies from raising prices beyond the 2021 inflation rate. Now, this is a little bit less than what they were hoping for. They were looking to tie it to a different benchmark, but at least they tie it to inflation, and that is where it worked. So what is it? It is Plan B, Medicare, and Plan D is reported. Plan B is for diabetes, and now we know a little bit more of what's going on. For the first time in the history of Medicare, pharmaceutical companies will have to negotiate prices with the federal government. They cannot just charge what they want. Medicare now has the ability to negotiate for the prices of the medication under Plan D, which is a big win for the federal government, a big win for you. This is something the pharmaceutical companies had opposed for 20 years and had never been allowed to, then left Medicare with inability to negotiate any prices for prescription medication since the start of Medicare. This is a little bit smaller than what the House originally proposed, but it's a big win with things like $35 a cap for insulin is the new pricing. Great prices. There's caps for other products across the board, like a lot of medication for arthritis and cancer will no longer have sky-high limits. They'll actually have caps. And after that, they can also negotiate them down more. Ron Wyden says this is the first time in the history of Medicare that the federal government's hands are not tied behind their backs. Remember, Medicare could not negotiate this ever. Never was able to negotiate it. And for 20 years, the big pharma fought with lobbyists to prevent this day occurring. Today, they lost. Chuck Schumer says we've heard from people across the country who have serious illnesses and cannot afford the medication. Today, we've taken a massive step forward in helping alleviate the problem. It's not everything we wanted. Many of us wanted to go much further, but it's a big step in helping the American people deal with the price of drugs. I like that statement in so many ways because it appeases everyone. Why does it say it doesn't go far enough? Because the progressives wanted to go much further. The progressive legislation passed in the House was much further. And certainly Bernie says in the comment today, nowhere near far enough. The Veterans Administration spends half the amount of money on the medication that Medicare pays. So why would Medicare have to pay double the price? But it is a great achievement to date to start with. Kristen Sinema was the opponent to it, and for some reason the president got her to turn around. You have to really praise the president on this one. This is a huge win from him, perhaps the best win this president has had in nearly 2 months. Sinema, who tried to oppose this, said tonight it was historic and transformative and ensured that Arizonans and Americans have access to life-saving medications and new cures and therapeutics. Dick Durbin says, I would prefer a stronger version, but I don't want to end up empty-handed. This is a right step in the right direction, a modest beginning. As you know, the way you do these things is you sort of get them going, and then you can go back and do this again in a year from now, and then chop away a little bit more. So they got a major step to start, and then they can continue a little bit more. Scott Peterson said no one is 100% happy, but it's really, really good for seniors. He's a Democrat from California. Jan Schakowsky said that the lobbyists really were spending a fortune in D.C. with advertising and campaign donations to elected officials to block this moment from coming. They have very powerful influence in Congress. Wyden said that this is a major improvement over what we've ever had before, and it's a big day for seniors. The Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturing Organization of America refused comment tonight. Tom Carpenter said it does not include the whole, he is pleased the negotiations would not include the whole universe of medications. But it's similar to what we do at the Veterans Administration, where there's a formula. Not every medication is under the sun. Good news across that. Bob Menendez said it's good for everyone. It did not kill jobs with big pharma, but it also delivered big negotiations of prices. We want to make sure that seniors at the pharmacy get the greatest relief possible. Not just the government saves money. He's so kind. I mean, he really always is. He has his heart the right way. I think there are provisions in the latest bills that will do that. Wonderful, wonderful news. I really have to praise everyone that got this done, because this was a provision that people thought on Thursday was gone. We thought it was gone, and boy, it was not. All right, let's go over the other breaking news across the board, which is, you saw it earlier today where I told you that the comments by Joe Manchin yesterday were much of nothing. They were much of nothing because he just basically said, I need to see the body of the text of the legislation. I'll be going over where that body of the text of the legislation is tonight in a second when we get to the voting process. But let's go over a little bit more about the breaking news about other programs. What next programs could be going in with a price tag of 1.75? What is next? Well, many insiders believe paid leave is the next big step across the board. That paid leave is really only seen one opponent, and it is Joe Manchin. Paid leave is if you have to stay home because your wife is pregnant and you want to see the birth of your first son. Currently under U.S. law, you have to pay the bill. Employer does not. Then, if your son broke his leg and you have to stay home from work, you have to pay the bill, not the employer. This country is the only country in the first world where this is the situation. We are not competitive as a country if we do not offer this, and companies all around the globe do offer this because the federal governments in those other countries require it. And Joe Manchin says it's just expensive. Well, sometimes you just got to spend more money as a business to run your business. And Kristen Gillibrand and Patty Murray says this is downright shameful. We don't have it done. I think we're going to keep on fighting to get it included. That's the second provision. The third one is SALT. SALT is great for everyone. SALT is lifting the cap on state and local tax deductions. It's very big if you live in large states like New York, New Jersey, Texas, Florida, California. This is Gothenheimer's provision. He's the moderate Democrat, the problem creator. He wants that provision in lifting the cap good across the board. Then the final provision is already in there. This is not a provision that's not in there. It's already in there. They're fighting to figure out if it survives. I don't think it's going to survive. It is the immigration reform. Goes to the Senate parliamentarian potentially as early as tonight, and she will look and determine whether it belongs in there. My prediction is she's going to say it does not belong in there. All right, you and I always like the voting count. What is the voting count on those provisions? What is the likelihood of those particular provisions? Well, It depends on sort of the nuance of the situation. A Bernie Sanders is never going to say, I'm blocking the President of the United States bill, because Bernie is too high on the totem pole to come out with that type of vigorous language. But if you look at Gothenheimer, if you look at the immigration reform people, they will say, I'm blocking it. So let's go over each of these provisions one at a time. As to the SALT cap, Gothenheimer's Goth Gang, which is enough to kill the recon in the House, says that if SALT is not in there, they will kill the recon in the House. Do I think he's going to do it? I don't think so. But do I think they're going to get it in there? I do think they're going to get in there. That is SALT, the impact of SALT. Next, the paid leave. A lot of people say they're not going to vote for the recon unless the paid leave is in there. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I think they're going to fold like a lawn chair if it's not in there and do it again under fifth stimulus. Then the immigration reform. This is where it's fascinating. There are some people who say they're going to vote against the recon and cost its life, its fate in the House if immigration reform is not in there. But when comparing that to the number of people in the House that says they will vote against the recon if immigration reform is in there, that number is actually higher. There's actually more Democratic House members opposed to the inclusion of the immigration reform than not. And remember, the immigration reform is not for people who just landed in the United States soils today and giving them money. No, this is a path towards citizenship for people who have been here for 20, 30 years. So that is that provision. And finally, the prescription medication, it's going to pass. So which brings us to then programs in and programs out. What's missing beyond this, in addition to the MSC, which is an add-on? Well, Bernie Sanders said on Thursday there's major gaps in this recon, quote, major gaps. It's the best bill since the 1960s. He talked about prescription medication as the first situation he needs to fix. Tonight, the situation's fixed. So what's left with Bernie? I'm going to go over those details first, but let me go over what's important for you to understand is that Bernie, Gothenheimer, Pelosi, Bernie medication and seniors aid, Gothenheimer, the SALT, and Pelosi, the paid leave, all said on Thursday they're still adding provisions in there, and they still can down to the finish line. Then, now we have more legislators coming forward. Ron Wyden, who's senator, is part of the senators on the Democratic side, says, you know what? We go last. So we got a lot of stuff to do still. And what I've tried to make a little bit clear today, because I don't think I made it clear enough yesterday, is that the senators are negotiating the substance. The House members are just talking about the procedure, which goes first, how it goes first. So while the House members may be part of the discussion, it's the senators that are always quoted in these negotiations. That's why early in today's videos, before we had the deal on the prescription medication, you saw me actually read that list of 7 senators that were doing that negotiations on the prescription medication. No House members involved. All right, so what is the comments about making changes? Ron Wyden says there is a lot of work still to be done, and it's not finished until the Senate acts. There you go. We have Chris Coons says there's going to be dozens of proposals. AOC says we're looking to see more negotiations happen. Pramila Jalapal says that senators actually texted me all last weekend to make sure they continue to negotiate. Well, they did, and it certainly was about medication. Debbie Stabenow, Democrat senator from Michigan, says, of course, there's going to be changes. We're going to wait to see what Chuck does with that immigration reform if it fails with a parliamentarian tonight or tomorrow. And then we have Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, says, my impression is provisions are going to get modified across the board. So now with the medication really solved, I don't think it's going to be broadened anymore. I think that's what you got, and that's what you're going with. The next question is what other provisions are there and what provisions are in or out? Let's go over all those details right now. What's important for you to note is, one, if I say something is out, I mean at the time of this recording. If I say it's in, I mean it's at the time of this recording. But we have 2 new facets tonight that we did not have last night. The first one is my revelation that Joe Manchin may have been on to something yesterday. What was he on to? During that press conference, no one really focused on a particular line except me that he said. He said it's a faux or a so-called 1.75 price tag, and there's a lot of budget gimmicks to have these programs go indefinitely. Interesting. Who else said that? I did. Because when I looked at some of the language that was printed out by broadcast media starting last Thursday, when the president made the announcement, I said, Why does it keep on saying permanent? Why does it keep on saying permanent? Why is it saying these particular numbers I don't see in my notes? Well, that now matches up with Joe Manchin, and I'll have those details as I go one by at a time to show you why I think what I saw was the same thing Joe Manchin saw, not the agreement he reached. All right, pre-kindergarten, got it in there for 1 year. Pre-kindergarten free for 3 to 4 year olds. Then enhanced child tax credit, the CTC. This again, here we go. Number one, offering that money if the family makes $150,000 or less per year. Excuse me, I don't have that anywhere in my notes. I have it was staying the same at $60,000. I have in my notes they were trying to get to 110. So when I see this 150, here is the first example. Is this a broadcast media error in running that number? Or is this someone in the White House putting in different numbers that people did not agree to and sending it over for Joe Manchin to look at? Where is the recon? The recon was sent to the subcommittee of the House called the Rules Committee last Thursday. Nancy sent it there and then sent it over to the House members saying, hey, take a look at it, make your comments. It was after that Joe Manchin had that press conference saying, this is sort of strange. He didn't explain how it's strange. We now, in my opinion, see that perhaps he thinks it's strange because not what he agreed to. If that's not clear, let's look at the next provision. This one jumps off the page. They will be permanently improving Medicaid to include home services for seniors and people with disabilities. No, they aren't. No, they aren't. The number is 110 to 200 billion. I have it coming up in a second. That's like 1 year, 2 years of the program. It's not 50 years of the program. Who said permanently? So is the broadcast media running the wrong word? Or is it a program that just runs for 1 year and then renews automatically? Yeah, so-called 1.75. That, I think, was the ticker that said to Joe Manchin, someone is just doing automatic renewal provisions in here that brings the 1.75 to like 30 trillion over 5 years. Very fascinating across the board. Hearing services will be included, hearing services like hearing aid under Medicare, and then $150 billion to expand affordable housing across the board. And that includes the rehab improvement of more than 1 million homes across the board. Pell's Grant added $550 per student. And then 8.7 million children will get free school meals while in school during the school year, and an additional $65 per month when they're not in school. So with that, we see where things are moving very, very quickly, very exciting. And Bernie had 2 comments last Friday. One was Americans are paying it too much for medication. Tonight, they will no longer be paying that amount of money. Bernie told us Big Pharma had 15 paid lobbyists working in Washington to prevent the legislators from coming up with a formula. Well, tonight we know that those paid lobbyists got some protection, but after 20 years, they couldn't stop it anymore. It got right through them. And they were unable, the lobbyists, to block the senators from coming up with a formula. They got a formula, how to figure out how to do this, much like how the Veterans Administration does. But comes the next one. This is likely where the attention will start going to tomorrow, which is the next one. The teeth, the dental, and the vision with the hearing and the Medicare. Bernie says we're the richest country in the world and people don't have money for teeth and they don't have money to see. Any recon must include that provision as well. Let's go over the details of that right now. This one doesn't make sense, and I think you're starting to see things make sense very quickly. So I think this is where they're going at. Dental, vision, and hearing. First, one thing that doesn't make sense about this is of the 3, the vision is the cheapest. So why is the cheapest not in there? Eye exam, $50. Glasses, $100 a year. $150, that's nothing. That is nothing. When you look at the most expensive, hearing is more expensive, a couple $100, and then the teeth isn't the most expensive. So it makes no sense that the cheapest one was in there. And this is a lot more people who need vision assistance, vision help, or prescription medication, prescription glasses than people who need hearing aid. The next thing that makes no sense is the dental. We got it. It's expensive. We know it's expensive. But it went from a lot to nothing. It was 10 years. Then it was 3 years. Then it was $800 vouchers per year for a couple of years. Then suddenly it's nothing. Makes no sense across the board. Again, we don't know who took it out. We do not see any lobbyists about this issue. And we certainly don't see anything from Manchin or Sinema about the issue. So we're not quite clear where the resistance is coming from across the board. But sometimes things just don't make sense. And let's look at some of my notes tonight to understand where broadcast media's numbers are certainly different than mine. And I want to see where things are going. Child tax credit, yeah. So I have this at a cap of $60,000 a year, and I show them trying to get a 110 eligibility. You make $110,000 a year as a married couple. I don't show anything at $150,000, so I don't know what they're doing there. Community college out. The Pell's grant, you heard that, the additional $550. The reducing Medicare from 60 to 55 or 60, not happening. It's staying at 65. And then comes the paid leave. The paid leave activists are very, very well funded. I don't see paid leave not happening. I got to tell you, paid leave is like the prescription medication. It is one of the campaign promises of the president, like the home health care. I think they just get something in there somewhere for this, because at the moment, zero makes no sense. They started at 12 weeks for everyone from Nancy Pelosi. This is her baby. 12 weeks for everyone, including self-employed and gig workers of all income levels. Decade, $500 billion. Oh boy, that's a lot of money. But they didn't have to do it 10 years. So then they got down to 4 weeks, only low income and employees only, W-2, $100 billion. That's cheap. $100 billion, that's nothing in a $1.75 trillion recon. It's 10% of the recon, barely. So $100 billion, there's no program in this recon that's that small. Very, very easy to get this in there. I would like it to be including gig workers as well, because there's a lot of low-income gig workers. Prescription medication back in, and then clean energy out, childcare in there. Health insurance got in there with a short amount across the board. Housing got in there 175. What a win. This is rent, utilities, mortgage assistance to homeowners, repairs. Third stimulus, $47 billion. Fourth stimulus, $175. Thank you, Maxine Waters. Great job on that one. And then in-home care, the home health care, $200 billion. That's not lifetime. That's not permanent at $200 billion. I have a little bit of opinion about the situation coming up in a second. But first, let's turn to the exciting details of student loan debt. More debt could be forgiven across the board, and that is $10,000. The president's offered to forgive $10,000 of student loan debt on top of the existing 3 rounds he's done. First, he forgave student loan debts for people who became disabled after graduation. Second, he forgave student loan debts for people who went to work in the nonprofit sector after graduation. Finally, the president forgave student loan debts for people who went to work in the public sector for 10 years after graduation. Your city, your county, your state, and your federal government. They should take the $10,000 for now to start. It's a great offer. They can come back and do more with the president. It's executive order. It's not part of the recon. Fifth stimulus, right behind fourth stimulus. Always someone say, why are you talking about fifth stimulus? Because these legislations take a while. And you know why this recon is moving so quickly this week is because it's been written. It went to the subcommittee of the House. They're just modifying slight little things there and here. Imagine the body of this legislation, which I think I read somewhere is about 1,800 pages. You can't write 1,800 pages in 2 weeks. I can't. They can't. They write with Crayola crowns. Not the purple one. I have the purple one. Here we go. Fifth stimulus. Budget Chairman John Yarm of Democrat in Kentucky says get ready for fifth stimulus later this year and all next year. I'm ready. I'm ready. Fifth stimulus check. Fifth stimulus update. Force Republicans to vote against it, like Medicare child expansion. I don't see the downside of it. How it will work? First, you're going to get this lift up of COLA. Some viewers have actually sent the live chat. They've not gotten a letter from Social Security Administration. You can see it on their website. Your benefits are going up about 5.9% next year. But fifth stimulus comes right behind it if they can become law. It'll raise your benefits up one time. Then apply a new benchmark. That new benchmark is inflation. Where is inflation going? Jay Powell will tell you it's not going any higher, but at least by the end of next year. But it will be going down about 1 to 3%. That's good because you want that additional lift across the board. So you'll get this lift, one lift on the fifth stimulus, and a new benchmark next December. Remember, every time your benefits go up, they never go down. They'll remove the asset cap, remove the income cap, and remove the marriage penalty across the board. Finally, if you haven't become a member, what are you doing? The link is under the video. Consider becoming a Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP to get that newsletter. It comes out Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, approximately, via the YouTube alert system and the LALATE alert system. The LALATE alert system is in the link to this video. Always sign up for that one if you're a member, so that you always can double up, so you can make sure you don't miss the link when it's sent out. The LALATE membership newsletter comes out daily and features the big money in our first, second, and third stimulus. As soon as third stimulus became a law, people were talking about $1,400 stimulus check. I, on the other hand, said, focus on the money I can get you under this third stimulus recon. It's about $15,000. Well, average view of this channel got about 40,000. Countless viewers got over 80,000. This is money for rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, food, and more. Let's go over those details right now. Important message I need to make very clear to you is that if you've gotten this money before, you can get more of it. They're doing additional rounds. You got rent before, you can get more money of it for before. So let's go over the rent. You're going to reach out to 6 places. City Hall, City House Authority. County Hall, County House Authority. State Hall, and State House Authority. The keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, mortgage utility assistance because of COVID. You want to look at that statement from Treasury about that new $13 billion cash infusion for the rent before you make the phone call. It's featured in the newsletter. Then the money for food from SNAP. Go get it. Oh boy. It's going up 25% lifetime automatically starting last month. And yes, Mark's brother-in-law is getting $26,000 a year because of my recordings. Countless viewers are getting big sums of money. As to the rent, people are getting on average about $30,000 from this channel for the rent. And they're getting multiple rounds. Next, is the important details of getting multiple sums of money, like utilities, SNAP, and also food. I want you to keep on getting these sums across the board. Finally, if you've gotten 1 or 2 items, continue to get more. If you have an eligibility problem, reach out to nonprofits. They're featured in the newsletter. That newsletter is very helpful. And as soon as fourth stimulus becomes law, trust me, my focus will be to now include in the newsletter all these programs that you can get across the board as well. As we go into a big evening, what is my opinion of the situation tonight? Boy, it has been a very, very exciting day across the board. As one of the most transformative bodies of legislation passed tonight in negotiations, not law, but at least passed through the negotiations, it's surviving. And it shows you a couple of things. One, what I've been saying that's been critical to this entire recon is the president. He's singularly the guy that got Chris and Sinema, who clearly was getting big campaign donations from Big Pharma. If you're Big Pharma, who else would you donate to? The person who could block this legislation. You give it to Sinema. He got to Chris Sinema, and through his own ability to negotiate, got her to agree to expand the language. Number 2, it showed compromise, because ultimately compromise is where we go. We were literally at zero, nothing. There's nothing at all for Medicare's ability to negotiate lower prescription medication prices ever. Tonight, they have the ability, once it becomes law, they have the ability now to negotiate dozens of big items across the board. Number 3, it shows the heart of the legislators, because they wanted to ensure that you as seniors, that you have money cheaper. Ultimately, when a big win like this happens, you need to remember it's win 100% for you. I know, I just smell it, that someone's going to say, well, because it's cheaper, that means they're going to raise something else for me. No. This literally means it's going to be cheaper. This literally means is that your Medicare was being held ransom by a very outdated legislation for Medicare that needed to be reformed, and they reformed that legislation to now allow Medicare to really do things cheaper. And doing things cheaper is not just for Medicare, it's for you. With that encouragement, we now see why Bernie Sanders' message on Saturday and Sunday was so critical. Someone on Mornings LA today said, why call, why advocate if my provisions are not in there? Tonight, this should be the encouragement for you. Why? Because this is what Bernie Sanders did all last weekend. He didn't dress up for Halloween as Nancy. He didn't dress up as Halloween for Chuck. He spent his time on the telephone. That's what he said. He spent the whole weekend long picking up the phone and calling. He said that he spent Saturday and he spent Sunday calling and nonstop calling to get the provisions he wanted in that recon about medication. Not a complete win. They wanted a lot bigger, but you gotta start somewhere. And as a transformative lifetime benefit, it's great. Let's now go over to one question, which is the vote. When? How? Why? Where? You're going to see over the next 24 hours a lot of talk from the House side about the vote. Very, very fascinating. I have no way to predict the situation because it's very, very fluid. But Nancy Pelosi represents that the House will be voting on both the roads and bridges and the recon at the same time by the end of this week. Now, what would you use? What would you do to determine the accuracy of that statement from Nancy? You want to watch, to the extent you can, what's going on with the recon in that House Rules and Subcommittee. That House Rules and Subcommittee, she's asked to get it out of there because that's where it starts. You have to fast track it there to set it up for then a floor vote out to the floor of the House of Representatives. You've seen over the last 2 months, September and last week, that the House often votes on Thursday nights. So Thursday could be the big night. For some reason, they love Thursday very, very, very darn late. They like it so darn late, I can't report on it. They're just very, very late. So I'm going to watch this Thursday, if Thursday is potentially the day up. You're going to see the dynamic of those senators, because the senators who are progressive say, no, don't do this. I don't want you to vote this way or that way. Remember, senators can't say how the House votes. The only person who says how the House votes is Nancy Pelosi. The only person who determines how the Senate votes is Chuck Schumer. But progressives or House members or moderates or anyone across the board can block a vote. So we have the equation of the goth gang for the SALT. We have the equation of the immigration reform with those people. And we have a lot of people saying, I'm not going to do this unless you do that. Well, we'll see what happens. Very, very fascinating across the board. But you see how a medication provision that was only Plan B as of Wednesday looked like it was nothing as of Wednesday night, heated up with Plan D added by the weekend, and just less than 48 hours later. And tonight we have a deal. Wow, what incredible great news. Coming up next is overnights, is our big 3-hour continuation of our big 3-hour programming block. If you haven't been part of it, enjoyable. Same faces, same community, same familiar fun. You jump in the live chat and you see the same faces as you go from one video to the next video. It's sort of like a pub crawl, just sort of with stimulus. Just with $12 ice cream. It starts with Evenings LALATE, then goes to Evenings Countdown, and then goes to Street and Stimulus. 3 hours of shows before we go into Sirloin. And with that, I look forward to seeing you. And also don't miss Overnight's Crypto playing on this channel. Boy, as I told viewers to go into Mana, Decentraland, based upon the Facebook news, and it went from 75 cents to nearly $3.50 in 48 hours. Oh my goodness. And with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers to YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video, 3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Purple Hot, Purple Power Casino VIP. Stay informed and stay focused. Have a beautiful evening across the board. The negotiations continue, but your advocacy never stops. Continue to advocate and stay with LA for more.